To everyone else, my life looked enviable. I had my own thriving marketing firm, clients who trusted me, a team that respected me. I worked hard for that. And Eric, my husband, he fit the image. Tall, articulate, successful in his own field. We were the couple people pointed to and whispered, "They figured it out." But I started noticing things, subtle things. He stopped looking me in the eye when I asked how his day went. Our dinners got quieter, colder. I never considered myself naive. I built my career on reading people, reading between words, between silences. So when I caught him smirking at a message on his smartwatch, I didn't lose it. The name flashed up as EL, and the tone of that little exchange, way too familiar, flirty, intimate. He tapped the screen quickly, thinking I hadn't seen. But I did. And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. Not pain, not yet. Just calculation. I waited until he fell asleep, his back turned toward me like it had been for weeks. Then I got to work. His cloud backups, the shared iPad, email syncs, he made it too easy. And there she was. Lena, young, driven, the kind of woman who posts inspirational quotes like their gospel. I stared at her face, studied it. Pretty in a forgettable way, but smug. She thought she was winning something. I sat there in the dark, my fingers folded, and I whispered, "He chose to betray me." Then I straightened my spine. I'll choose when and how to respond. The days that followed, I played my role, smiled when expected, kissed him goodbye in the mornings like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, I watched, listened, documented. Every time he claimed he was running late, I noted the time, the patterns, the lies that piled up like receipts he never bothered to hide. He thought I was distracted with work, and I was, just not in the way he imagined. Every silence between us felt heavier now, like we both knew something neither of us was saying out loud. But I wasn't going to confront him. That would have made it about him, and I had no interest in that. This wasn't about begging for truth or explanations. It was about control, about timing. I didn't want his apologies. I wanted clarity. I wanted to understand who he was when he thought I wasn't looking, because that version of him, that's who I needed to outsmart. Not the charming husband, not the man who remembered my coffee order. I was dealing with someone who smiled while setting a fire behind my back. And somewhere along the way, something strange happened. I stopped hurting. I stopped asking why. My focus shifted from heartbreak to strategy. I started treating this betrayal like a campaign. And in campaigns, I don't panic. I plan. I thought of every pitch I'd ever delivered, every client I'd convinced, and I reminded myself, this is what I do. I influence outcomes. I shape perception. And right now, I was shaping my next move. Quietly. Precisely. Because soon, I wouldn't just take back the narrative. I'd take back the power. There's a strange kind of calm that settles over you once you decide you're not the victim in the story. I wasn't going to cry in bathrooms or scroll through their texts looking for closure. No. I was going to let them write the ending, while I quietly built the epilogue. I started noticing the little details that used to go unnoticed, like how Eric smiled more when his phone lit up, but less when he looked at me. Or how he never mentioned Lena by name, but suddenly had opinions on younger talent in the industry. And that's when the universe handed me my first real opportunity. One morning, during a team debrief, my assistant dropped a resume on my desk. It was for a junior strategist role. I wasn't looking to fill that position yet, until I saw the name, Lena. Her resume was ambitious, bold, practically dripping with self-praise. She wanted a seat at my table, and just like that, something inside me clicked. Not anger, not jealousy, strategy. She had no idea the door she'd just knocked on, and I had no intention of slamming it shut. I scheduled the interview myself. I made a note in my calendar, and I smiled. Not because I was hurt, but because I'd just found my opening. Not the one they expected me to take, but the one they'd never see coming. I remember the day she walked into my office. Lena, hair a little too styled for an entry-level interview, smile just a bit too bright, She wore confidence like perfume, thick, noticeable, and meant to distract from what she lacked. I greeted her warmly, of course. Why wouldn't I? She had no clue who I really was. No idea that the woman across the desk had seen her hotel bookings, her texts, the lipstick left on receipts. It took everything in me not to laugh when she started talking about loyalty and growth. I leaned in, hands folded, playing the part of the curious CEO. She talked about her goals, her passion for strategy, how she wanted to work under someone who could really mentor her. Oh, sweetheart, you're about to be mentored. She spoke of ambition like it was a virtue, not the excuse she used to sleep with another woman's husband. But I listened, patiently. I asked sharp questions and watched her dodge with rehearsed answers. And still, I nodded, smiled, encouraged. She thought she was charming me, and I let her. Because here's the truth. I didn't want to confront her. I wanted to contain her, keep her close enough to watch, close enough to control. I didn't need a meltdown. I needed access. And Lena? She walked right into my world thinking she was about to conquer it. I offered her the job that same week. My team was surprised. They didn't see what I saw. But I told them she had potential. And in a way, I wasn't lying. She did. Just not the kind she thought. Lena started the following Monday. She walked in like she belonged, heels clicking, head high, wearing that same smug energy I remembered from her photos. I welcomed her with warmth, even introduced her to the team with a smile that didn't betray a thing. Not one flicker of recognition. She had no idea she was walking into my game board, already positioned as a piece I planned to move. I gave her a prime spot, a sleek desk near my office, and a curated project list that just so happened to sync with Eric's timeline. And then, I made my next move. I reached out to Eric's firm, offered a potential collaboration, one I knew he couldn't resist. His company had been struggling to land fresh partnerships, and here I was, handing him one on a silver platter. When he found out I was leading the deal, he was surprised, curious, but he played it cool, pretending he was too busy to talk much. I watched him walk into my office for the first meeting, and I smiled, noticing how he avoided Lena's eyes across the room. Coward. By the end of that week, they were both under me, reporting to me, answering my emails, asking for approvals. Lena started sending me late-night drafts and progress updates, eager to impress. Eric tried to stay professional, polite but guarded. I think a part of him was starting to wonder, but not enough to back away. Not yet. That's what made this whole thing so satisfying, watching them squirm quietly, not sure if the air was really getting thinner or if it was just in their heads. I started complimenting her in team meetings. Lena has a sharp mind, I'd say. She just needs the right guidance. And oh, how she beamed. She thought she was winning me over. But what I was really doing was feeding her enough rope, letting her feel safe, seen, even special. It was the same tactic I used with clients who didn't realize they were out of their depth until the contract was signed. Lena was no different. And Eric? He watched, tense and quiet, unsure whether to feel proud or paranoid. There were moments when I'd catch them exchanging glances, brief, shaky, laced with guilt. But I never let on. I just kept layering the trap. One meeting at a time, one shared project at a time. I assigned them both to a campaign that required late hours, weekend reviews, one-on-ones. I wanted to see how long they'd pretend nothing happened, how long they'd fake professionalism while sitting 3 feet apart in my conference room. I didn't need to ask questions. They gave themselves away in their silences. The irony? They actually started to relax. Like maybe they believed the worst had passed. Like maybe I was too distracted, too busy, too trusting to ever know. But that was the most delicious part of it all. Watching them settle in, completely unaware that every move they made, every word they typed was being noted. Logged. Stored. I wasn't rushing. I didn't need to. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they'd won. Mentoring Lena became my favorite performance. I'd call her into my office, give her feedback, tell her I saw real promise in her. She'd lean in, scribbling notes like I was handing her the keys to her future. And in a way, I was. Just not the future she imagined. I watched her soak in my praise, eager to prove herself, to impress me, the same way she probably tried to impress Eric. It was almost poetic. The woman who betrayed me now craved my approval, completely unaware that I was the one holding her strings. With each passing week, I pushed them closer. Strategically, of course. I assigned them to lead presentations together, sent them off to brainstorm in private, then circled back to review their progress. The tension was palpable. Their body language stiffened in meetings, their laughter forced, their eye contact almost too deliberate. Eric, for his part, looked more and more like a man unraveling. He knew something was off, but couldn't prove it. And Lena? She just wanted to please. Both of us, it seemed. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I documented everything. Emails, messages, calendar invites, photos. Our company system synced devices automatically, a fact they clearly hadn't considered when using work platforms to plan rendezvous. I never snooped. I didn't need to. The receipts practically fell into my lap. A shared Uber receipt here. A lunch meeting that didn't exist there. Lena even had the audacity to book a hotel using our corporate discount. That was bold. Stupid, but convenient. Every move they made was a brick in the case I was building. The hardest part wasn't pretending I didn't know. It was pretending I didn't care. There were days I wanted to throw a file across the room, to scream at the ceiling, to ask them both, was I ever enough for either of you? But I didn't. I smiled. I hosted client calls. I praised their teamwork. I even joked once that they worked so well together, they must read each other's minds. Lena laughed nervously. Eric didn't laugh at all. That moment told me everything I needed to know. The guilt was eating him alive. Still, I kept the mask on, because I wasn't after drama, I was after dignity. I wanted the kind of confrontation that left no room for denial. No slammed doors, no screaming matches, just silence and facts. My power would come not from rage, but from poise. And so I stayed steady, knowing I held something far more potent than suspicion. Proof. The kind of proof you don't come back from. The kind that stains reputations, ruins careers, and slices clean through excuses like a scalpel. And when I finally decided it was time, I didn't call a scene. I sent an email. One line, polite, professional. I'd like to schedule a private meeting with the two of you. Just us. It's important. No context, no urgency, just enough to keep them wondering. The responses came quickly. Of course. Looking forward to it. I imagined them texting each other, trying to decode my tone, trying to guess if I knew. But they wouldn't guess right. They never saw me coming the first time. They wouldn't now either. The meeting was set for Friday, 10 a.m. I chose the smaller conference room. Intimate, quiet, no distractions, just the three of us. I made sure the lighting was soft, the space neat, clean enough to feel sterile, personal enough to make them uncomfortable. That morning, I wore my favorite black blazer, the one that fits like armor. I didn't rehearse a speech. I didn't need to. The truth was already printed, organized, tucked into the manila folder I placed gently on the table. It didn't scream. It didn't need to. Eric arrived first, early like always, still trying to look composed even as his hands betrayed him, fidgeting, tapping. Lena came 2 minutes later, bright smile faltering the second she saw it was just me and him. She hesitated at the door. I gestured for her to come in. Have a seat. My voice was calm, steady. I think that scared them more than if I'd been yelling. They sat, exchanging one glance that said everything. And then, silence. Thick and choking, like the air was learning how to behave. I looked at them, not as a wife or a boss, but as the woman they thought was too oblivious to notice. And with that, I began. Before we start, I said, fingers resting lightly on the folder, I want to clarify something. I watched their faces, one confused, one pale. I know everything. Their expressions broke, just slightly, enough for me to know the timing was perfect. The pieces weren't just in place, they were trapped inside them. Eric blinked first, his jaw clenched, hands folding awkwardly in his lap like a schoolboy caught cheating on a test. Lena's mouth opened, then closed, her eyes darting to the folder like it might suddenly disappear. I let the silence breathe, let them sit in it, let them feel the gravity of what they'd done, not just to me, but in front of me. I opened the folder slowly, deliberately. Pages slid forward, emails, calendar entries, screenshots, one by one. No need for commentary. The evidence spoke louder than anything I could have said. Lena, I said evenly, your name is on at least 3 hotel bookings paid for using our corporate code. Her lip trembled, just enough to amuse me. Eric, the company laptop? Really? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The weight of it hit them differently because I was calm. I wasn't the woman they expected, not the emotional wife or the betrayed boss. I was both, and I was in control. That's what made it hurt. That's what made them squirm. I wanted them to remember this version of me, not the one they thought they'd fooled. Eric tried to speak, something about blurred lines, about needing to talk, but I held up a finger. Not angrily, just firmly. No. One word, that's all. Lena leaned forward, probably preparing some kind of apology or excuse laced with fake regret. I stopped her too. You cheated in my home, you lied in my company, and you did it thinking I wouldn't notice? I shook my head, eyes on both of them. Pathetic. The room was so still I could hear the HVAC system humming, and then I smiled. Because this was the moment I'd waited for. I turned to Lena first. She wouldn't look me in the eye. Not anymore. You were promoted because I wanted you close, I told her, my voice measured. Not because you're special. That stung. I saw it land in her chest like a stone. She opened her mouth again, and again I stopped her. Don't try to salvage this. You didn't earn your place here. I placed you here. Her cheeks flushed, but she stayed frozen. I wasn't angry. I was surgical. I'd spent months preparing for this moment, and now I was simply executing. Then I reached under the folder and pulled out the termination letter, her name printed cleanly across the top. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out after this meeting. She gasped, genuinely shocked. That amused me more than anything else. She really thought she'd get a second chance. That I'd forgive her because of her potential. Your company email is already deactivated, I added, standing slowly. And don't worry about references. I've already informed HR of the circumstances. She finally spoke, a quiet, stammered, I didn't mean... But it was too late. I didn't bother responding. I turned to Eric next. He looked gutted, like someone had pulled the floor out from under him but left the ceiling intact, just to watch him dangle. I pulled a second envelope from the folder and placed it in front of him. These are your divorce papers, I said, steady as ever. I've already filed. All assets are frozen, and your severance package includes nothing. His mouth dropped open. You can't... I leaned forward just slightly. I can, and I did. He sat there stunned, like his body hadn't quite caught up to what his ears had heard. I watched the panic set in, the kind that starts in the eyes, then crawls into the chest and makes the breath shallow. He wasn't just losing his wife. He was losing his shield, his safety net, his built-in reputation. He knew it. That's why he couldn't speak. That's why, for the first time in years, he looked at me with something real behind his eyes. Not love, not regret. Fear. It suited him. I trusted you, he finally muttered. It was pathetic, really. I tilted my head, almost sympathetic. You did, and you used that trust to feed your ego, to build your fantasy while I ran your reality. His hands clenched into fists on the table, like anger might reverse what was already done. I didn't flinch. We could have had everything, Eric, but you wanted more, and now you'll have less. I stood slowly, pushing the chair back with quiet finality. This meeting is over. I didn't yell. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. As I walked out of that room, I didn't feel rage. I felt clean. like I'd rinsed off months of deception and stepped into the sun with dry hands and a steady pulse. I heard the faint shuffling behind me, Lena being led out by security, Eric still sitting in stunned silence. But I didn't turn around, because this wasn't their ending. This was my beginning. The first Monday after it all ended felt different. Not louder, not quieter, just lighter. I woke up without the weight of suspicion pressed against my chest. I didn't check his calendar. I didn't glance at his side of the bed. It was empty. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like space. Space to rebuild. Space to breathe. I brewed my coffee slower that morning. Let the scent wrap around me like armor. There was no chaos, no dread, just me and peace. At the office, the energy had shifted. No whispers, no tension, just clarity. My team had questions, of course, but I gave them professionalism and poise. Lena has moved on to other opportunities, I said, with a smile that meant, don't ask again. As for Eric, he faded quietly from the industry's radar. No more invites to panels, no mentions in trade articles. I didn't destroy him. I simply removed my name from his future. And without me, he wasn't interesting. He was just another man with potential he never lived up to. And Lena? She tried to recover, applied at other firms, sent feelers through people we both knew. But reputations are fragile things, especially in this business. Word spreads, quietly, elegantly, like perfume in a boardroom. I never said a word about her to anyone. I didn't need to. The story told itself. She was let go unexpectedly. Something must have happened. No one wanted to risk bringing that kind of storm through their doors. And me? I simply kept building, kept thriving, kept showing up, not angry, not bitter, just better. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I needed resolution that echoed. And that's exactly what I created. My company grew faster than ever, new contracts, fresh talent, clients who trusted not just my pitch, but my presence. Because there's something magnetic about a woman who's been through fire and still walks like she's made of gold. I wasn't hardened. I was refined, sharper in the places that used to be soft. Not cruel, but no longer naive. I knew now that loyalty should never be louder than self-respect. Sometimes I'd find myself thinking back, not to the betrayal, but to the moment I chose not to break. That moment when I said, not yet, let them think they've won. That was the beginning of everything. I didn't need to scream into pillows or key someone's car. I used strategy, precision. I fought a war they didn't even realize they were in. And I won without firing a single messy shot. That's the part people don't always understand. Power doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it shows up with a signature and a smile. The best part? I don't miss them, not even a little. What I miss is the version of myself I almost lost, the woman who made room for other people's messes, thinking that was love. She's gone now. In her place is someone who knows exactly who she is, what she brings, and what she'll never tolerate again. I walk into rooms now with a different kind of presence. Not loud, not boastful, but undeniable. And every woman who's ever been underestimated, she sees it, and she knows I didn't just survive it. I rewrote the ending. There's a quote framed on the wall behind my desk now. Simple, clean. It reads, "Power isn't taken, it's reclaimed." I look at it every morning as I sip my coffee and open my calendar. Not because I need the reminder, but because I like the truth of it. I didn't steal power from anyone. I simply took back what was always mine. My time, my energy, my name. People come and go in this world, but when a woman stands tall after being pushed to her knees, she becomes unforgettable. Every now and then, someone will bring up Eric in a meeting, not realizing the history. I smile politely, offer a short nod, and steer the conversation back to the future. That's where I live now, in the future, in possibility, in building legacies that don't rely on anyone else's loyalty, just my own clarity, my own vision. There's a calm in my days now that I didn't know I was missing. And at night, when I switch off the lights in the office, there's no lingering ache, No unfinished business, just closure and purpose. If they ever think of me, Eric or Lena, I hope they remember the quiet. The way I didn't scream. The way I smiled when I ended it. The way I signed their endings like they were contracts I'd reviewed thoroughly, without emotion, just precision. Because now, I don't just sit at the head of the table. I built the damn thing, and I sign the paychecks, including the ones they'll never receive.